Yeah, Murphy. I'm in. That son of a bitch is gonna be around here somewhere. I can feel it. Evening, Coach. Detective. I've been expecting. Looks like we finally caught up to you. Now, you gonna come quietly? Or are we gonna have to do this the hard way?
We interrupt your regularly scheduled viewing for a special news update, live from the DLC press room.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out to this impromptu press conference today. My name is Detective Max Stryker with the DLPD, and we would like to give you an update on the Hackscape case that has been plaguing this season of the Pokémon Premier League. At approximately 2 a.m. in the early hours of this morning, off the basis of a tip, we raided a location where we believed the culprit behind Hackscape was laying low. The culprit in question has been arrested. They came willingly and are currently in custody of the DLPD. Won't be taking any questions at this time. Yeah.
Was Coach Shroom with Parasect Germain involved?
Yes and no. Coach Shroom of Parasect Germain was certainly involved. I don't know the extent to which he was aware of what he was doing. But this appears to have been going back quite a long way. I spoke with a professor at Draft League University, and he mentioned that Coach Shroom seemed to have brought into reality an alter ego, an evil entity who was behind the majority of what is happening, the formation, the calling of this Council of Boomers, I believe it was. Suffice to say, he will be joining his fellow council members in a cell. Yeah.
What about the other coaches associated with the Council of Boomers?
Well, as it turns out, coaches Onesie, Bayonet, and Franktrode were double agents. They were with us the whole time, and it was in fact their tip that led us straight to the alter ego of Coach Shroom in such a timely manner. So they will be progressing as coaches and continuing on with their careers. Yeah, over there.
Can the Draft League format survive this kind of controversy?
Well, I'm certainly no expert when it comes to this competitive kind of scene, but I don't see any reason why it can't continue with the rate that it has been going. This is certainly an isolated incident, and I think that things will be better for what we've done here today. Something great has been accomplished. The man has been put behind bars where he belongs, and I'm certain that everyone is suddenly much safer, and this Draft League scene will continue onwards at a great rate. Yeah.
Where's Parasect Germain's coach now?
Currently, we don't exactly know the real Coach Shroom's whereabouts. He is not a person of interest, though, at this time. Wherever he is, I would certainly like to speak to him if possible, but if he chooses to, that is very much up to him. I'm not able to force him. And now that we have the real culprit behind bars, I'm sure things will be able to go back to the non-luck-based way that they were run before. No more questions at this time. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and welcome to my my league wrap-up video for the PPL Bolt Division. Yes, indeed. Just wanted to give sort of my thoughts on the mons I had and the season as a whole. As you know, we didn't quite manage to make playoffs. We finished with a 3-5 record, -5 on the differential, placing in, as hopefully you can see on the screen, in 10th on our division. Actually, in reality, it was sort of joint 9th, because 9th, 10th, and 11th, in whatever order, myself, Alex, and Frank, we all finished with the same record and the same differential, and we couldn't even be separated on head-to-heads because I beat Frank, Frank beat Alex, and Alex beat me. So the three sort of PPL OGs all finishing just out of those playoff positions, which was quite fun, I suppose. Yeah, bit disappointed not to make playoffs, given our sort of late push, but in reality, I'm kind of okay with it. Like, if you remember, way back when we started this, I said I never considered myself to be a favourite to get through. My two main goals for this season, one was to not lose every game, and the second was basically not to come last. And we managed to get both of those, which is good. My chair is broken. So I need to fix that. Yeah, we managed to do both of those, and for the first time coming back after 5 years, I'm pretty happy with how it went. A little disappointed, obviously, with like the beginning of the season. We didn't get off to a great start, and that really put us in a bad position. But a late push with some good transfers. You know, I'm okay. I'm content with how things went for a first time back after 5 years out of the game. But yeah, wanted to sort of go over the team and how things did and what I think of them. So we'll go through them one by one. Why not? In draft order, first up we had Annihilate. Annihilate came to 4 games and went 5-3. Oh, Annihilate, what to say? I feel like I let Annihilate down. Like, my team, I had an idea of how to run with Annihilate and a bunch of hazard setters, and it never quite panned out in the sort of way that I was thinking about making Jirachi offensive and building around it to not make it go defensive every week. Annihilate kind of fell into the trap because it's so naturally bulky and I didn't have enough bulk on the team. It was often forced into one of these defensive or bulky roles, and I didn't get to run it as freely offensively as I would have liked. But it did okay, you know. 5-3 is a decent record. It only came to 4 of the 8 games. I'd have loved to played it more, but it never seemed to quite work, which was a shame. I'd have really liked Annihilate to pop off, but it never really did. It got that big 4-0 record in week 4, but apart from that, it didn't do as well as I would have liked. It did okay in... Ooh, my screen's gone a bit dark. Oh, hello. Come on. There we go. It did okay in week 6, but yeah, unfortunately, Annihilate didn't really quite get as much love as I'd have liked it to have done. But I'm okay with how it did. You know, it's one of the 3 mons I had that got 5 kills in the season, so not too shabby. Not too shabby. Next up, we had Hisuian Samurott. Very happy with Hisuian Samurott. It went 5-4 from 6 games. Again, there's a few of these mons that I'd have liked to have popped off a little more, Samurott being one of them, but it did its job. I really needed to run it scarfed less because it limited what I could do with it and people could see it coming. But scarfed seemed to work quite well. There are reasons why running it scarfed so often wasn't ideal, and I'll get into them a bit later, but Samurott put in a decent showing. First time I've ever used it, and I would certainly use it again. I think it's really good. I focused a lot once I had Samurott on not getting any more water types, and I think that realistically it could benefit from having a very bulky one next to it. But these are all learning curves, and there are things that I could have done better with this draft, and maybe having a bulky water alongside Samurott was one of those. But yeah, I like how Samurott did. I have to say I've really enjoyed using it. Didn't come to the first 2 games, then came to every single other one because it's cool and I like it. And it's a real good upgrade on regular Samurott, and I want to use it again because it's fun. So that's Samurott. Third up, we had Jirachi. Jirachi did not come to... I thought Jirachi would be a shoo-in for like every single week. and then there was like 3 weeks where it just didn't show. It went 2 and 4 from 5 games, which is not great, especially considering how I said I wanted to use it, where I wanted to get a lot of my other support ones to do jobs that it could do, like wish passing and stuff, and have Jirachi go really offensive. It never quite panned out, unfortunately. But Jirachi maintains its position as like a really good draft mon. And yeah, I think if I'd have drafted better in the bulk department, mons like Annihilate and Jirachi could have popped off a little more. Unfortunately, it never quite got to that, and Jirachi kind of suffered for that. But it was good at some of the things it did. When it did come offensive, it actually had its best performance in week 1, where I brought its Scarf and got 2 kills. But other than that, it kind of took a backseat to a lot of my other mons, unfortunately, for poor old Jirachi. 4th round was Sylveon. Oh, Sylveon. Sylveon came to 5 games, got 1 kill, died 4 times. Not great. Sylveon has suffered the most from losing just a few moves. Heal Bell was not a massive problem for it, but losing like Mystical Fire was big. I never really got to run it in a big Specs Sylveon kind of role, which I'd have liked. It never really got going in an offensive role at all, which was a shame. I'd have loved to have like been firing off Specs Hyper Voices as when I could, but you know, I said that it was going to be taking a defensive role over Jirachi a lot, and it certainly did. It did okay, you know, it did okay at stalling some turns and sitting in and living and getting wishes off, but it wasn't able to run as offensively as I'd have liked, and the figures show that. You know, Sylveon has certainly taken a downgrade of late, but it's still good, still a good fairy. I just think there are better ones out there that could have been taken. So then, Cleavor. Cleavor, loved using Cleavor. One of my most used mons, came to 6 games, went 5 and 5. Quite nice and what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent, that's the one. 5 and 5 for Cleavor was a nice record. Here's my problem that I had with Cleavor. I thought I was being really clever in taking Cleavor and Hisui and Samurott by having those 2 mons that get offensive hazard setting moves. The problem is, they both essentially do the same job. They both have the same speed, they are both physical attackers, and they both ran Scarfed quite a lot. The problem there was I felt the need to bring them both a lot, and they essentially both do the same job. So I was bringing 2 mons in the same role most weeks, which really limited my team building for the rest of the squad, which was a shame. And, you know, realistically, I probably should have taken one or the other and then spent the points on another big mon later. And that's just something I've learned from doing this. But Cleavor was good fun to use. Really quite reliable in just making sure it could get kills here and there. So yeah, I'm okay with what Cleavor did. It only lived in 1 game, or 1-0 in that game, but no, Cleavor was good fun to use. And would I take it again? Yes, but I wouldn't take it and Samurott because, like I said, it really limited my team building, and I think that didn't help me in the long run. So next, Tornadus Incarnate, the Redemption Arc. Did it redeem itself? Yes and no. It went 2 and 4 from 4 games. It was never the offensive threat I really wanted it to be, but there were times when it did a really nice job, like those Prankster Tailwinds it was able to set, and like it setting up for other mons with the Prankster Tailwinds, and especially the big Prankster Rain Dance against Frank. That was huge. So it's kind of redeemed itself a little bit. I think it's sort of back to parity for me in terms of do I love it, do I hate it for what it's done for my team. Yeah, Torn Eye, good mon, and I appreciated having it on the squad. So yeah, not too shabby for Tornadus. Then we had Cyclozar. Cyclozar, who came to 3 games and went 3 and 3. Cyclozar will remain a very drafted and very good mon just for its offensive utility. Like I've said before, Rapid Spin, U-Turn, Ice Spin and Knockoff, all those things. It does lack a little bit in terms of offensive presence for something like that, but it usually did a good job for me. It was, I don't think, ever on the winning team for me though, which is a shame in any of those 3 games. But it's certainly got its niche in terms of its offensive utility, and people will keep drafting it for that reason. I think it needs to not be the only dragon or normal type on the team, and that's something I've learned that I really need to focus on, not being like, I've got this type, I cannot take another one of that type. Getting a really offensive dragon alongside it, or like a really offensive normal, like I was considering at one point Meloetta for the squad. Having Meloetta alongside Cyclozar would have been really nice. But Psych, it did a decent job. It did some good work. I was happy with how it supported the team with its spinning, with its knockoffs, and all that stuff. It was just a shame it never got to be on the winning side, really. So, then we get into the lower half of the draft. Toxtricity. I'm so sad for Toxtricity. I really wanted Toxtricity to do well. I really did. It came to 3 games and went 1-3 before I dropped it. Oh, I wanted it to be good. I wanted this to be the one who would come like most weeks, and after getting loads of chip damage through hazards, Toxtricity would set up a shift gear and sweep. It never came to that. It never came to that. I think I got shift gear off once in the first week, and by that point it was too little too late. It did a decent job being a surprise defensive mon, but again, it just didn't have the power then to break through that pesky belly bolt from week 5. Yeah, it was a shame about Toxtricity. Like I say, I wanted it to do well. I was backing it, and it never quite came off. Yeah, it's an interesting typing. It's got some interesting niches. It just didn't work for me here. I needed something different from the typings I had from it, which we'll come on to later. Yeah, poor Toxtricity. I'm sorry that I kind of let it down there, but yeah, we move. You know, ooh, gone the wrong way there. Back to Cyclozar, don't want to do that. But yeah, that's Toxtricity. Next up, Sandslash. This is the one I feel the worst about. Sandslash came to 3 games and went 0-3, and here's the thing. Sandslash is my most drafted mon of all time, and it's not even close. I have used Sandslash so often, and it pains me to say that Sandslash just hasn't kept up. It used to be really good. Like, I remember back in PPL Season 2, it went 0-6 and went up in price by 2 points, just for what it was able to do, like sponging hits, getting spins off. And I thought it was going to really be helped by having Cleavor setting up the rocks for it and having another spinner in Cyclozar to be able to take the burden off of Sandslash, but Sandslash just hasn't kept up with the meta. It's one of those mons that it's been left behind, and it shows. You know, it took hits here and there. It had a couple of decent showings, like there were glimpses where it took hits that it had no right taking, and especially in the week 4 game against Padel and the Glasgow Gliscorers, where it was able to stall out screens just by being bulky. It was able to get knockoffs going and tank hits, so it showed signs, but realistically Sandslash just hasn't kept up. And there are just always going to be better options. It pains me to say it, it's one of my favourite ones to use in draft historically, but I think the journey is over for Sandslash, really. It's just not as good as it needs to be. And it pains me, because I love using Sandslash, but unfortunately, you know, the story tells itself. So, speaking of things that didn't do as well as I'd like, Shaman. Now, I knew Shaman wasn't going to come to all that many games. I thought it might come to more than just the one that it did. And it went 1-1, and that was fine. But Shaman, it'll have its niche on teams, and we've seen it already do well. Like, we've seen it do some great things in the SPL already, under the control of, I think it is Don Mephisto, who has it in that. And there are signs that it's still very good, but it just didn't work for me. There was always things better than it to bring to a matchup, and Shaman just really suffered from that. Like I say, I dropped it after week 5 and never really looked back. It was never going to come to any of those last 3, and yeah, just unfortunate. It's about the 2nd time I think I've drafted Shaman and just haven't got as much use out of it as I'd like, which is a shame. It's a shame, but yeah, there were better things I could have drafted, and again we move on to those in a bit, but yeah, poor Shaman didn't really do what I'd wanted it for the team, and it showed, unfortunately. Last one of the mons I drafted for the regular season, and sometimes when you get to the end of your draft you pick up a 3-pointer and it really comes good. I've had that before, where I've waited till the end of the draft, picked up something, and it's done absolute wonders. Pyroar was not one of them. It came to 2 games and didn't get any kills. It was supposed to be an offensive threat, and it just isn't quite good enough. really. It pains me, again, to say it. I know there are people who are big fans of it. I know Alex is a big fan and wants me to use Scarf Hyper Voice every week. I was always too scared to go for it. Again, it had some fun things, like against Alex, where I ran that defensive set that looked like it had potential. But unfortunately, Pyro, again, never got going. I was never able to use it to its fullest potential. There were probably better ones I could have taken. Yeah, poor old Pyro. Just didn't quite live up to the hype, unfortunately. But now we can get to two of the ones that really did well, actually. When I made some transfers after week 5, first one I brought in was Thunderous Therian. Now, Thunderous Therian went 2-2 from 3 games, and it actually did really well for me. Coming in and being able to wall out certain things. And it never quite got sweeps going, but it got big hits where it needed to, which was nice. I quite enjoyed using it. Like I say, I've used Thunderous Incarnate before, never Therian. And I enjoyed using Therian. It was nice to have just a proper, good electric immunity that could then pile on offensive pressure. So yeah, Thunderous actually did quite well. I wish that I'd taken it earlier. Like, I was looking at doing those transfers after week 4, and realistically I should have done. They might have been able to help me out somewhat in week 5, you never know. But Thunderous was a good one. I quite enjoyed it. And yeah, I'd take it again because it needs a bit more time on my team, I think, to properly put in some work. But then, then we get to realistically the season MVP. Hisuian Quillfish revolutionized my season. It was the game changer. Hisuian Quillfish came to all 3 of the games that it could, and it went 8-2. It was brought in a defensive role twice, and then really offensive under Rain in week 7, and it put in work. It put in work, let me tell you. Quillfish, as I rearrange my chair again because it's sinking, Quillfish absolute MVP, even though it only came to 3 games. It was brutal. Very good defensively. Like I say, I should have had this thing a couple of weeks earlier, because having that Intimidate and the natural bulk with the Inviolite, the resistances that it has, its ability to Terra, it just put in work. I wasn't expecting it to do as well as it did in the slightest, but it walled out prominent physical threats, it swept under Rain, and then it did a good job in week 8 in a losing effort, you know? It was able to tank hits, take out a powerful setup sweeper, and it's the only mon that KO'd Famke this season. So yeah, Quillfish was really good. Hisuian Quillfish was fantastic. I wanted Overquill in the main draft, never quite got it obviously. I should have brought in Quillfish earlier, that's on me, but it put in a big old shift and I was very happy. Very proud of it. 8 kills for little Quillfish, what an effort. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on the team. You know, I didn't draft well enough, basically. My big problems, I thought my biggest problem was not having enough dedicated bulk, whereby I kept needing to run like Annihilate in a bulky role. I never quite got to have the freedom with Jirachi that I would like. Another big thing, of course, was not having massive, dedicated, powerful wall breakers. Crucially, that had speed setup. I really lacked things that had speed setup, like Annihilate, Jirachi, Samurott. They don't have the setup for speed that I really needed for this team. We saw it with Thunderous Therian. The first match it came to, it ran an agility set and got really, really crucial chip damage for Samurott to come in endgame. Cleavor, I never quite had the balls to run that Trailblaze set again after week 1, which was a problem. So what I really needed was like something like a Salamence or something of that ilk. Like if I could have had a really good Dragon Dancer, that would have been nice. Shift Gear never really popped off for me, like I said. So yeah, there were definite issues with my drafting. One of the biggest ones I've discovered was drafting Samurott alongside Cleavor. I really should have just taken one or the other, because then I could have relied on something big defensively to get up the other hazards where I needed. But it's been a learning curve, you know? Like I said, first draft league back in 5 years, obviously things are not going to go swimmingly, they're not going to go perfectly, they're not going to be flawless. But I think we didn't do too bad of a showing for ourselves. We got lucky in places, we had some good performances, and I think that it's been fun, it's been good to come back and, you know, get things done and have a good time with it. That was the main thing. what sort of stopped me from doing draft and what sort of made me leave doing draft was just not enjoying it anymore. Like, it became a chore, doing all the team building and making the videos and stuff. But now that I've got a bit of a better setup and also just having fun with the intros and stuff, that's been a big thing for me this season. And I have to say, big thanks to everyone who indulged me with my silly little intro skits, and also everyone who helped me with them as well. You know, Alex, Frank, Nick and Eric from the Council of Boomers stuff. Pete as well, coming back last week and helping me out with his voiceover stuff. Jack the Dawn Fanatic helped me out with it as well. All these people who've just like put their time aside, and I've been like, I'm doing something silly, will you help? And they've just been like, you know what, sure. So yeah, huge thanks to those guys for helping. And another big thanks to the little team building core that we had, little group of us who helped each other at team building. I've mentioned Alex and Frank, but also new and recurring friends, Killer Boom, KJ, Padel as well was in there. Was that everyone? Was that everyone? Who else? Have I missed anyone? I don't want to miss anyone out. No, I think that's it. Yes, that's all of them. But yeah, I mean, having those guys, it's been really good to be in a group with people helping out with team building. Sometimes we have silly ideas and sometimes we have good ones. But it's all in good fun. Like, even when a bunch of us were playing against each other, we were still like helping out where we could with the other weeks. So it's been good to have like a core of people who can get together and chat about matches and help each other out. It has been a very fun season. Oh, my screen's going blank again. There we go, good. It has been a very fun season. I'm certainly going to try and take a bit of a break from uploading stuff. I've got a bit of a busy end to the year. Obviously with Christmas coming up, it's going to be a busy end to the year. But as of this video going up, the weekend, this is going up on Monday the 18th. As of the previous weekend, for Saturday the 16th, I'll have had my cousin's wedding, so there's a lot of stuff going on from there. I'm doing a lot of traveling to see family and all that stuff, so I don't know how much I'm going to be uploading before the new year, but doing the Bolt Division has given me a new lease on uploading stuff. I know I've been very inconsistent, but I've got ideas that I want to go for now, and doing all this has sort of reintroduced the fun aspect to it. And again, a big thank you to Ellie and Jack, and I think Kelly was involved in the setting up of the revamped PPL stuff as well. Huge thanks to them to having me back after so long out of the game. It's been an absolute joy. Well, is this a return, you know, for Parasect Germain and me to Draft League as a whole? I mean, don't call it a comeback, but this has been very fun, and I wouldn't say no to doing more of it. You never know. I guess we'll just see what the future holds. But yes, that is going to be it from this particular journey of me in PPL Bolt Division. A huge amount of good luck and stuff to everyone who's in the playoffs. You know, I'll be following those games very closely because I want to see how things go. So very much good luck, have fun to all the people who did make playoffs. I'll be enjoying those matches as they go up, and I think everyone should too. Links to everyone, of course, who's in Bolt and Flare down in the description. Make sure you check them out. There's still stuff going on with the playoffs, and they're going to be great matches, so I highly recommend you check them out as well. But yeah, this is just my thoughts on the season as a whole. But I am going to get out there. Rambled on for far too long as always. So my final thank you to you all for watching, and I guess with that, I will see you next time. Laters.